I live in upstate New York, and my family owns around 10 acres of land surrounded by fields and woods. I have always had experiences growing up in this house. Here's one of the stories. It was late at night, close to 1 to 2 a.m. when this occurred. I have a window at the end of my bed that has an AC in it. It's about 8 feet from my window to the grass below. My cat, Hudson, loves to jump on the open window and lay across and press against the screen. That night, he had decided to jump up on that window. I had totally forgotten the screen to my window was out due to the AC. I didn't realize this until I heard Hudson hissing and screeching at something outside the window. I assumed it was some sort of animal, maybe a raccoon, and tried to call him in. Suddenly, he had fallen out the window and started screeching. I have never heard him make a sound like this before, so I jumped out of bed to go outside and get him. I went to my little brother's room and to have him help me go find my cat. I was really nervous because he has gotten out before and he has gone missing for days on end, so my fear of the dark was thrown out the window at this moment. I had my flashlight on and sprinted out the door and went to the side of the house where my window was. I made the turn and shined my flashlight on the area. What I saw was not my cat, but a 7 to 8 foot figure that was trying to scale the walls of my house and reach into my open window. One of the creature's back legs were pressed against the house while the front legs had a hold of my windowsill. The creature noticed my flashlight and looked in my direction. It had deep red eyes that kept me frozen in my spot. The creature stared me straight in the eyes and proceeded to let go of the house and move towards the field on the side, but it didn't go on all fours. Whatever this thing was stood on its back legs and ran quickly into the field. In the darkness, I was able to make out what looked like a set of horns or antlers on the thing's head. Its height on its back legs was at least 7 to 8 feet tall, and it did not look like a human at all. Its posture was slightly hunched over, and its arms swayed to the side of it as it moved. They hung close to the level of what I could guess would be its knees. My little brother was in front of the house looking for my cat, so I went to grab him and he helped me look in the field where the creature ran into. At this point, I think my adrenaline was going so fast, I didn't completely process what I had seen. We got close to the field and saw absolutely nothing, no cat or creature. We made our way back to the front to look for my cat on the other side of the house. Without saying anything, my brother and I froze. We both looked towards the trees and bushes at the side of my house and saw them rustling. We heard this painfully loud shrieking, and we booked it to the front door. I have no idea if what we heard was that creature or some other animal, but I had an awful gut feeling standing in that driveway. It wasn't safe and I couldn't have my brother out there. I locked the door quickly and went to the back porch sliding door and saw my cat waiting at the door to be let in. He is the type to escape and be out for days with no issue. He has never once just come back to the door after getting out. He looked scared. His tail was the bushiest I have ever seen and the poor thing was shaking. He ran inside and stayed away from the windows and doors the rest of the night. I have only told this story in this much detail to my boyfriend, and even then, it is so difficult to explain what I had seen, heard, and felt that night. The gut feeling that something is not right and we could be in serious danger was nothing I have felt before until that night. The most memorable part of that experience was the feeling I got when the creature stared into my soul with those ugly, deep red eyes. I have nightmares about this event, and I see its eyes often when I close mine. It took me so long to process and analyze what I had seen, but the closest I can describe this creature and its stature is if you search up Wendigo depictions. I'm not completely sure if it was a Wendigo, but I do live fairly close to so-called Wendigo territory in New York. The whole experience freaks me out thinking about it. This happened in Marshville, North Carolina in 2008. My then girlfriend lived in a very secluded and rural area, and I lived about 45 minutes away. I drove county roads as much as I could to avoid highways, less traffic lights, stops, etc. And it was a daily drive for almost 2 years. I took the same road and knew every inch of it by heart. It was mostly a straight stretch of road, except one area where it banked right up a hill. And as soon as it crested, it banked back downhill left. There are very few houses along the way, and a fair amount of tree groves, so it was quite dark. Never once had I encountered anything out of the ordinary. There was rarely even other vehicles traveling. The most signs of life I have ever saw was an occasional deer in the distance. However, one late summer evening, I was heading home around 2 a.m., cruising around 40 miles per hour down that same road. got to the hill, made the first bank to the top, and as it turned down into a bank, I saw it. A humanoid shape, cloaked in shadows. No discerning features, and oddly, my headlights barely illuminated it. This thing was just floating there, resembling how ink spreads through water. This was all I could make out, before I realized I wasn't able to stop in time to avoid it. I white-knuckled the steering wheel, clenched my jaw, and squinted my eyes as I had no idea what I was about to mow down. At the moment my bumper collided with solid matter, the black mass dissipated away. Yet I felt an ice-cold rush through the center of my car. My dash lights failed, but the throttle jerked in a sudden burst of acceleration. I didn't even bother glancing in a rearview mirror. I was frozen in disbelief of what I had encountered. The dash lights flickered back on, and I took the first available turn to the bright lights of the highway. I sped into the gas station parking lot and pulled up under the pump overhang, basking in a warm fluorescent glow and trying to slow my heart rate. I immediately called my girlfriend to tell her what I encountered. I was relieved at first, thinking maybe my imagination had pulled one over on me and I didn't see anything at all. Saved me from sounding like a raving lunatic to her. So I went into the gas station to buy some smokes, convincing myself that the dark really does play tricks, and wrote off the mishaps with my car as it was aged and flawed. But as I made my way back outside, my fears began to rekindle. From a distance, I noticed something on the front bumper, and as I got closer, I realized it was on the hood as well. It was like a frost, a wide strip of white frost across the center of my hood, grille, and bumper. It was about 78 degrees Fahrenheit outside. There's no way that could be. Against my better judgment, I reached out to touch it. It was definitely cold, but what was more odd was that it was slimy. It melted into a goo substance as I felt it and stuck to my fingertips as I pulled my hand away. I just stood there for a few minutes and watched as it melted, congealed, then slowly dripped down off the car. I have no idea what any of it was, and for a long time told myself it didn't happen. Kept it to myself, and I made up a weird excuse to my girl and friends why I wouldn't drive that road anymore after midnight. A few years went by until one night I was drinking with a close friend and decided to spill the whole story. He explained to me that he and his family had lived in the area for years, and what I had experienced was shocking, but it didn't surprise him at least. He told me his parents and grandparents had shared similar stories, and they always just say, "Old Scratch was out tonight." When I was younger, I was a smoker. I mean a pretty heavy one at that. At the time, my grandmother also smoked. It was either a few days before or after Christmas because I remember the tree was up. My cousin lived a few houses down from me. Coincidentally, this was a night where he was sleeping over. We would get to play on a PlayStation. It was going to be a great night, or so we thought. My grandparents were both sleeping at this point in time since it was pretty late. We both smoked, and my grandmother smoked Sonoma regular 100s. They were her favorite brand before she quit smoking. Well, my cousin and I had a brilliant idea to go upstairs while she was asleep to nab ourselves a good old-fashioned cancer stick from her pack. We went to the stairs, being quiet like mice. When we reached the door, I pushed the door open. Of course, it was me who opened the door, because it was my house he was staying at. I pushed open the door, trying to keep it quiet. As soon as that door swung open, a black figure jumped at us. It was like a real-life horror movie jump scare. We all love them, but this? Hell no. It made us both nearly crap ourselves. We bolted back down the stairs, ignoring the idea to stay quiet at this point. Once we were in another room, away from the stairs altogether, we were both pale. We both saw it. It wasn't one of those times where one of us would see something. Whatever it was, it showed itself to both of us. That'll teach us to keep smoking and try to take a cigarette again. We dubbed what we saw that night the Christmas demon. Pretty creepy stuff. We never saw it again.